Hello everyone, thanks for joining. So it's pretty rare that I do N-scale stuff on this channel, and it's even rarer that I do American stuff. But here we have a Union Pacific number 510 to have a look at. It's an F7 diesel and it's coming from TRIX, which is a German brand. So we're going to have a closer look at this today. So obviously this is second hand and I got it in a job lot with a whole bunch of other things. One of the things though you'll notice straight away on this is that it's got some paint problems at the front here. And I've actually looked this up on the internet and I've seen that a number of other ones of this model have the same problem with the flaking paint on them. So I'm thinking if you're one of these, you're going to have to watch out for this or be prepared to repaint this model at some point. That said, the painting that's on this isn't really that good. You can see at the top here, this part here is really badly masked up and it's very fuzzy between the yellow and the grey. But it does have some nice transfers on. The 510 and the Union Pacific are very clear, and we've got some red lines on here as well. Down in this area the grey seems to be glossy as well. I'm not sure whether that's the previous owner that's done that or it's come out of the factory. I would suspect it's probably the factory. And underneath you can see TRIX 2961 and Western Germany, which gives you an idea of how old this model is. I would say probably from the 80s. But at the front it's really suffering a lot from chipped paintwork. And also this part down here underneath the coupling has actually split as well. It looks as though somebody's maybe tried to take this apart and broken it. And the coupling is a bit off centre as well. So it looks like maybe it's had a bit of a bash at the front here. The bogies aren't too bad, but you can see that the wheels have really big flanges on them. It's quite an old model. And also these bogies seems to have a bit of a slider connector just in here where it's putting power up to the motor. So that could be actually a bit dodgy. But we'll see how this goes in a minute when we put it on the test track. One of the things I really like is the horns on the top. They're extra parts added on and they're very fine, and also they're still there, which is great. But the glazing is frosted, so you can't see inside this model, so there's no interior detail to enjoy. At the back we've got some more problems with the paint, and there's a little bit of detail too, but it's not too bad. And up on the roof it's got some nice detail with the vents. I especially like the exhausts here, which look really well defined, and there's some rivet detail as well. So not a bad little model this actually, and if it wasn't for the paintwork it looked pretty good. Anyway, let's put this on the test track and we'll see how it goes to begin with. So here it is sitting on some Pico flexi track that I had kicking around. It seems to be okay even with its large flanges on this piece here, and I'm going to give it some power using my H&M controller using 12 volts DC. So let's give it some juice and see what happens. Well, that's pretty cool. It ran perfectly first time. Didn't even need it clean or anything. It is quite an old model this, and I think it's been kicking around in somebody's collection for quite some time. Maybe a bit unloved as well. But yeah, it's still just run perfectly straight away, which is really testament to the mechanics of this model. One of the things that was particularly impressive was that the front light here actually worked, and so did these number boards, and you could see it said 510 on them as well to match with the number of the locomotive. So that's really impressive. I like that feature. But let's take this apart and we'll have a look at the mechanics inside. So it's a real shame the paint is just flaking off this model. It's got no hope at all of keeping that paint on it. But what we have here is a complete metal chassis. The motor inside here centrally located, and there's even this tiny little bulb here at the front which was given as the illumination. So it is quite a sturdy model, and I'm quite impressed with the mechanics. It seems to work very well. I didn't think these sliders would be particularly good, but we seem to have no problems at all. So let me put this back together and then we'll put it on the scales and see how much it weighs. So this model comes in at 93 grams. So this N-scale model of an F7 diesel locomotive, the Union Pacific 510 from TRIX, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. The mechanics are really good. The motor seems to work fantastic. It crawls along at a really nice speed, and even though this is quite old and probably a bit unloved, it still worked without any problems at all. And I loved the lighting at the front of the locomotive. It worked very well. But what's really letting this model down is the paintwork. Obviously, it's just flaking off the model now, and after a time it's just going to have no paint left at all and look absolutely awful. So it's ripe for a repaint, and it's certainly something that you need to kind of consider if you're thinking about buying old TRIX N-scale models, that the paint might actually be pretty bad on them and continue to fall off over time. But that aside, I would say this is actually a really good model. It's probably going to run for a very long time and do sterling work on your layout. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts on this little model. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. I'll put this on the turntable so you can see all the way around, and in a moment another video will appear. So just click on that and I'll see you over there. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See ya.